This isn't a party political broadcast, for two reasons. First, nobody's asking for your support, your vote, your obedience, or your money. Second, what you are being asked to do is much harder than that. The idea is for you to question the basis of modern society yourself. Think about it, and then go away and think what to do about it. I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to think. What I want to do is simply explain a point of view to you. It's a point of view that is not explained very often, anywhere you go, in anything you see on TV. But it exists, and it's quite widespread. What you do about it is up to you. You can reject it, but it's important to understand what you're rejecting. Politicians talk about this problem or that issue. Within capitalism, the real reason why politicians all sound the same and why people find it so hard to be interested in politics is that they all have this same frame of reference. If you question capitalism itself, you automatically put yourself outside that frame of reference. And that's when the politics of capitalism suddenly becomes meaningless to you. Capitalist politicians make everything sound incredibly complicated. So complicated that you need them to work it all out for you. You have a vote every 5 years. That ought to be enough. What more do you want? You don't really understand. You don't know enough. You're not smart enough. You couldn't really make the decisions. Well, medicine's complicated. It takes 11 years to train a doctor. We couldn't all be doctors. But who ever heard of Politician College? What qualification do politicians have which is beyond the rest of us? There isn't one, is there? Anybody could go into politics. The experts in charge of decision making are not experts at all, no more than you are or I am. Let's get something straight here. Two men in a pub could bore and bewilder you for several hours with football talk, if you were daft enough to let them. But the rules of football are pretty simple. It's the same with politics. The universe of histories and details go on forever. But the basic rules of capitalism are quite easy to understand. And so are the consequences of those rules. It really isn't rocket science. And once you understand what the rules are, you're then in a position to ask yourself a novel question: whether you actually agree with those rules. Let's have a look at some of these rules or facts of life. See if you think they're complicated. See if you think they really exist or I've just made them up. Rule of thumb number 1. Very roughly speaking, 5% of the world's population owns 95% of the wealth. That's the land, the resources, the lot. That's about 1 person in 20. 1 person has all the wealth and the power, 19 have nothing very much at all. That's called the unequal distribution of wealth. It might sound unfair, it might seem unjust, but it's a fact of life and it's legal. That's not complicated, is it? Here's another rule, a golden rule. The people who have the gold make the rules. That's why it's all legal, in case you were wondering. Here's some more rules in no particular order. Rule 3. The more money you've got, the more you can make. Rule 4. The less money you've got, the less you can get. Rule 5. The poorer you are, the more expensive everything is. Rule 6. The poorer you are, the iller you'll be, the sooner you'll die, and the worse off your kids will be. Rule 7. The poorer you are, the worse your education will be, and the worse your job will be. Rule 8. The worse the pay, the harder the job. Rule 9. The opposite of Rule 8. The higher the pay, the easier the job. For example, company directors get paid, say, 100 times what a warehouse worker gets. but who goes home most exhausted? Rule 10. If you're really rich, you're a capitalist. You don't need to do any work at all. Rule 11. The poor pay for every mistake made by the rich. Rule 12. Rich people start wars that poor people have to fight. Rule 13. Most rich people get rich by inheriting. Occasionally there's a rags to riches story, but they're vanishingly rare. Rule 14. Most poor people stay poor through hard work, thrift and sacrifice. That's enough rules. You decide, have I made these up? Am I just a cynic? Or do they sound like things that you've thought as well? You'd never get politicians saying any of this, that's for sure.